Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
It is November 18th, 2008. We've got an hour and 52 minutes left in this transmission, broadcasting on the AM and FM dial, transmitting and streaming over the web at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, as well as over different satellite systems. This is the Alex Jones Radio Show. I am Alex Jones. And our guest is Alan Watt of CuttingThroughTheMatrix.com, again for the next hour and 51 minutes. Now, I know that we have Don in Costa Rica, Jimmy in Kentucky, Dustin and others holding over from the last hour, but Alan can speak to any subjects you want to call in about. If you want to talk to Alan Watt, it's 1-800-259-9231. I have a lot of questions I want to ask Alan. I want to have discussions with him and try to bring both of our knowledge of the New World Order and all of our knowledge together to a higher level. Because to defeat the enemy, you have to know who they are and what their agenda is. But we will start going to your calls in T-minus 20 minutes when we come out of the bottom of the hour break. So everybody be patient. We're going to get to everybody who is patiently holding. But Alan, last hour I had a caller call in, Mike from California, saying, well, if they're saying they plan to kill 80% of us, how do they plan to do that? And I was explaining to him that it's incremental. First, they've got to socialize us, get us under government control, being regulated, being tracked, being traced, in government schools, where they always, have things more far advanced than they are for the adults. This is all part of, like programming, bringing in the new model, flushing out the old info, putting in the new, reducing the language, semantically reducing the language, drugging, poisoning, sterilizing the population. We have all the numbers on that. I want to go over that. But out of the gates, I wanted to ask you, because I've seen a lot of this in their Club of Rome planning, UN planning, biological diversity assessments. We've seen a lot of it in the university level documents they're putting out, what the RAND Corporation is saying, what the British Ministry of Defense said last year that I know you covered extensively, as we did here, where they admit that there's a global elite and they're waging war against the individual, that they're putting in robotic aircraft so they can replace humans, even refusing to say nerve gas large cities. So can you walk through how, from the pieces we have, and I know you've researched this same stuff I have, and even more in some cases, because I hear you, I read you, I know it's all on target because it's from the enemy's own manual. So for listeners, this is not our opinion here. But again, they leave gaps in it. They explain a lot of it, but then you have to, it's all compartmentalized and partitioned. You have to put it all together. And they're not clear on time frames, but they want to use global war, global famine, controlled bioweapons releases to train us with each terror attack, each bioweapons release being bigger, to live in a more and more controlled society in the name of keeping us safe, to get us finally in that totally controlled technological enslavement grid, control grid, so that they can then exterminate us in mass with the super bioweapons they have. And they say they're racing to do this to save the earth. So can you break down how you see that unfolding and where you see it going, Alan Watt?
Yes, well, as far as bringing the population down, it's already happening. It's been happening for 50 years. And their own statistics prove it. I've read reports this last week or so from official reports on the sterilization of males. The CBC television, Canada, that's the BBC version of the Canadians, came up with a documentary called The Disappearing Male, where we're now at 85% or more sterile. And
the West is dying from Russia to Japan to the United States. First world is dying at about 3 to 4% a year. But to be clear, you mean they've slowed down the global growth?
Oh, absolutely. And there's more women, girls being born than boys now, because the boys have been attacked in the womb by bisphenol A and phthalates, which literally alter the biological makeup of the male. It attacks his endocrine system at the age of 7 weeks as a fetus. And we're seeing them today. The feminine males, they're much slimmer. They have no shoulders.
Let's not glaze over that. And this is again main government documents, CBC broadcast, what Alan and I have already covered. But there it was codified. The baby boys are dying in the womb en masse, being targeted. If they make it out, I don't want to even say they're feminine. They're an emasculated male whose literal glands do not develop. Alan, please continue.
Yeah, and also on that same documentary, they said that 10 years ago, they could take sperm samples from young, healthy males in college around the age of 18, and they had 60 million sperm per milliliter. And now the new normal is 10 million per milliliter. So that's how far it's dropped. And so they keep dropping the normal sperm count for males, and the sperm that's left is immotile. It's immotile dysfunctional. It doesn't find the target. It cannot go to the ovum. So technically, most males today are almost completely sterile. And this is well understood. They've been studying this for 50 years, and it's only now they're releasing what they've always known for the last 50 years. And you have to go back 50 years to the writings of Charles Galton Darwin, who came out with his book, The Next Million Years, where he outlines, on behalf of the elites, the different techniques of doing this very thing, sterilizing the population, primarily targeting the males, and reducing them drastically. So it has been happening. People are always looking for a big apocalypse, and it doesn't happen that way. It happens gradually, quietly, and the big mainstream media make no big deal about it.
Explain that, because you do that very well. I mean, they state it's silent weapons for quiet wars. They slowly turn up the ambient chemicals, the frequency pollution, what's in the water, the food, so that we slowly get used to the neighbors, the kids dying of cancer, the old people dying early. We slowly get used to everybody not being able to have babies on the block, except for the new third world populations that come in that haven't been under the chemicals. But then you take third world groups that have been here a generation, they're just as sterilized as blacks and whites. I mean, we're under hardcore attack right now.
It's complete all-out warfare. And now he discussed this as Charles Galton Darwin. He was a physicist in the 1950s. And you find Arthur Koestler also worked at the United Nations. Arthur Koestler is admitted now. Koestler was a member of MI5, MI6. And he taught at a university in New York for a while. He worked for the United Nations. And he wrote about this necessity as well of vastly reducing the population. They're using the same techniques, in fact, that they've been using on animals in basically animal management in the forestry commissions. They target primarily the males to bring their population down drastically. Same techniques we use.
Yeah, they've been putting out baits to chemically sterilize badgers and foxes. And again, it's all done just like you manage animals. They even say that. Go ahead, please.
Yes, they actually call it herd management when they discuss humans in the medical societies now openly. So this has been happening. We're seeing all the other side effects. As the sperm count drops and the endocrine system is severely attacked in young men, their IQ level is dropping as well, which also explains why they can't catch on to the big picture of what's happening around them. They literally don't have the ability to see what's happening. And that again ties in with the big planning committees who discussed this with Charles Galton Darwin. He didn't do this on his own. He spoke on behalf of the big think tanks and foundations that worked on behalf of the British elite at the time. And they talked about the necessity for dumbing down the people, especially the male, because the male was their main target. They said, if the men will never, ever accept this new world order, this regimented system from birth to death.
And that's why they Prozac and Ritalin the boys. That's why they target them for a fist fight. They go to jail now instead of being allowed to do their normal male activities. I mean, that'd be like arresting a baby pronghorn, a juvenile pronghorn for challenging other males out on the grassy plains of New Mexico. All normal human activity is made criminal. The male is destroyed.
That is correct. And as I say, they had targeted the IQ. If there's very little testosterone working there, you technically are not a man anymore. You won't rebel. You won't stand up and fight. You won't even object. You're very placid. And again, this is well understood by herd management for animals. When you basically neuter a bull, he becomes very, very placid, and he'll accept treatment quite easily. There's no objections. Well, that's happened in society.
And then the police now take steroids to supplement the fact that they've been basically neutered. And so that's the only sequestered area, though, where you're allowed to be male, only if you're assaulting your own people, though.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And, of course, the guys in charge of the military and the police turn a blind eye. They understand this. And I've seen cops, too, in Toronto, standing outside the Gold's Gym and opening their big bags. And inside there's all the files there of the different steroids. So they have bags of it. And they all look like the Incredible Hulk. They have no neck. And they've got their shaven heads there. And they're just dying to get out there and be aggressive. Now they have permission. So once again, it's authorized from the top.
Please continue.
Well, what's interesting, too, one of the main chemicals that is a synthetic hormone, the very things that Charles Galton Darwin was talking about and advocated, was bisphenol A. Now, bisphenol A was understood, it was discovered in the 1800s, and in the 1930s, the chemical companies in the U.S. had done extensive experimentation with it, and they found that it was an endocrine disruptor